Hello, and welcome back to the intuition experiment. If this is the first time you're seeing my face, hello, I'm Julie. This is my third installment of Julie Tells Her Story, Julie Speaks Her Truth, to get weight off of my proverbial chest. I just want to take a little minute to express my gratitude for the fact that I am allowing myself a space to really speak about where I've been, speak about what is true for me, speak about situations and circumstances that have felt very heavy for me and that I have taken along and dragged along. Is this an ant? I swear to God, I'm having a moment, ant. I don't know what's happening, but around this time of the year, every single year, this apartment is overrun with ants. They're just willy-nilly walking across everything like, bro, you don't even pay rent. But can I get back to my video? I've seen them in a couple of my other videos. I'm like watching, like, what is this thing moving in the back? This is not. This is a nail. I hang up a calendar there, but it's very distracting when I'm trying to sit this way and catch the natural sunlight. You know, anyways, that's not an ant. The thing crawling around before it, that was a freaking ant. But I digress. Part 3 of my story, I just want to start with the trigger warning. If you are someone who is sensitive to topics of sex work, topics of struggles with mental health, struggles of abuse, struggles with, well, any number of things. I'm trying to cover all my bases, but we are there are plentiful topics within my life story, and so I just overall, if you are someone who is sensitive to stories of people harming themselves and being harmed by other people, I would suggest you might not tune into this. For everyone who's sticking around, here we are, where I left you off. She is discovered after hours. She has become, she being me, party girl. So the quintessential party girl. And I think within society, especially younger members of society, that it sounds like the life. It sounds like, oh, she's living her best life and she's getting out and she's in the city and she's going here and she's going there. But the truth of the matter is that what I discovered in these after-hour clubs were, at least from my perspective, people who were trying to escape reality, who were gambling pretty intensely with their own lives, with their own safety, with the safety of other people. And for anyone who does not know, in terms of hard drugs, there are just, like, what do you want? You can take your pick. They are actively and readily available. You go into the clubs and you just buy them there. They're wheeling and dealing in the bathroom. At least they were in the times that I was going. And it was with frequency that I actively sought out the opportunity as much as possible to be in these scenarios and surrounding myself really with people who were wanting to escape probably as much as I was. And so I was introduced to the world of methamphetamines, and within a short period of time had lost 100 pounds. Now, 100 pounds off of somebody who had previously locked herself away because she was worried that she was ugly and fat. And that was that was an ego boost, I guess. Moved into the city, my first apartment, downtown Gay Village, which is really where a couple of the most prominent after hours were. So everything was very accessible to me at that time. But I had maintained my job for a short period at Zeller's. In total, I had worked there 2 years, just maybe two years plus, but I had discovered this scene, and things started to unravel, as one could imagine, pretty quickly, because I would be with frequency, going to the clubs, leaving the clubs, immediately jumping into a car and heading straight to work, having been very heavily under the influence of some very heavy things. And I am shocked that I never got called out on it. I would find myself sometimes up in the employee's bathroom, just tripping out on the floor, not knowing how to handle the situation of, the shock of going from this really intense party scene into like, oop, the quiet with the ears ringing and the dilated pupils and just like, oh my God. And I show up and I'm like sweating. And I developed this habit, this nervous habit, I guess, especially when I would do a lot of speed, that I would chew the inside of my lip. And a lot of the times the inside of my lip would be bloody. It would be bleeding because I would just chew it and chew it and chew it. And that was actually, now that I think of it, a habit that it took me many years to kind of get out of it. I guess it's something that I grew out of. I'm not sure. But I suppose actually when I get stressed out right now, like even as I sit here right now, 37, she chews her lip. But that is besides the point. I walked into work one day, work Zeller's men's department. We're folding the shirts. We're hanging the things on the hangers, ladies and gents. And I said, this is not making me happy and I am quitting. Without a backup, no plan, no money. And there she went. Back into the city where the weight of reality, the weight of responsibility was squarely on my shoulders. And by this time, my mother had left my life. There are many years of my adult life that my mother has missed. That was a period of time that she had stopped talking to me. And so here I am, no job, not really feeling like I am well surrounded or supported, and scrambling to look for work. And so in our metro system, every day during the week at least, they print these little like newspapers, right? And at the back they have classified ads. And so I went and picked up one of these papers and I was perusing the classified ads looking for a job, and listed, it said that they were looking, there was a place that were looking for masseuses, massagers. So I don't even want to. No experience necessary. And yeah, Julie thinks she's grown at that point, but entirely, wholly and entirely naive. And so I go, I make an appointment, schedule my little appointment for an interview, and brings me to this place that I had never realized before, but like, maybe not on every street corner, but really quite prevalent, are these places with blacked out windows, very shady. It looks like shady shit goes on in there because it does. Little neon sign that says massage. And I showed up. There was this big Peruvian guy, balding on top with this long ponytail. And if I'm just like saying it frankly, that day I walked into a job interview and met my pimp. So he gave me a brief rundown of what was expected. And it's this like weird scene where nobody actually says, like, it's referred to as rub and hug. There's a lot more than tugging going on behind those closed doors. And no one really says it out loud like you're not supposed to, but like, you're being pimped out. I need to say, I have looked for validation in myself. I can say this now with a lot of time and reflection in retrospect. I looked for validation in myself with other people, all the wrong people. And promiscuity had been one of those things that I thought that I was claiming power for myself and my ability to choose what I did with my body and who I did it with. I think part of the thing for me was not fully recognizing, not at all recognizing or coming to terms with the intensity of emotion I have around men. Trying to find where my worth comes from, and really gambling with my own health, with the health of other people. And so it was no like sad or hard story of like how I took this job essentially as a sex worker. That for me, I thought it was freedom. For me, I thought it was empowerment. It was in line with the music I was listening to, with the music videos I was listening to, with this idea of, no offense, we're about to offend some people, but like men are garbage. And if you're silly, I'm just going to take your money. Like you're going to manipulate me. No, bud. You're gonna pay. Like, I thought that the ability to pop this pussy was something that was empowering. All of this said, she's fresh. She's 21. And I really and truly had no idea what I was getting myself into. The intensity of situations, the gambling that I did, over the course of just over a year, the things that I saw, the confirmation for me, in some ways, potentially, possibly, my subconscious, I was looking for ways to confirm all of the things that I had already believed about men, that they are unsafe, that they are not trustworthy, that they are unkind, that they are dishonest. Because I actively put myself in situations where the shadiest of the shady people, men are coming in. And what I thought would be empowering ended up costing me so much that even today I'm paying the price for, if I'm being frank. And I'm saying this in a time where OnlyFans is really a big thing, where that is popping off, that there is this ongoing conversation about empowering oneself through being a slut. And I don't say slut like I need to say that, like, I in no way, shape, or form am passing judgment over what you choose for yourself. I wish I had known myself what the truth was in terms of exchange energetically, in terms of long-term effects, because at the time I just thought, like, this is quick money, we're going to continue this party lifestyle. But it resulted in a pregnancy that I aborted. It resulted in STDs. It resulted in, lifelong now, I have herpes. It resulted in scary situations. My first client, I suppose no one uses their real names, right? But he called himself, the name that he was using was my father's name. And he had this habit of coming in only when the new girls were there, because he would only pick the new girls because they didn't know what to expect from him. They were so fresh and trusting, I guess. So all of this empowerment that I thought I was going to live out and be like, bam, give me your money. Like, no, I let people tell me what I was worth. There was no negotiation. There was no setting boundaries. I kind of just like let things happen, and then people throw money at me, and like painfully small amounts of money. We're not stacking cash here. That was quite a time in my life. I would go home and I would, for many reasons, and I feel like the absence of most of my family, that's what weighs heaviest on my mind when I think of it. But I would go do this job and go to these parties and spend most of my time intoxicated in some way or another. And when I was alone with myself, I would literally writhe in bed. The pain it makes me sad for myself when I think about it right now, because the pain and the suffering on an emotional level was so intense in my body that I could not contain it any other way, and I would just kind of cry and roll around my bed and feel like I was barely hanging on, honestly. So this lasted about a year, I suppose, and the side note, I was confident in this decision, like confident enough that at the time I was speaking to my father, and I was speaking to my grandmother, and I let them know, kind of roughly in a nutshell, what I was doing as work. I remember sitting in my father's living room, and we were talking one day. It was like probably just before dinner, and I felt like the tone was starting to get a little wild, and I said, Dad, like, I feel like things are about to get out of control. Can we just like calm down? And things did get out of control because he attacked me. He, despite being somebody who frequented services such as those, had told me that I would never have a place to live, that I was a slut, that I was a whore, that he wished that I would die on a park bench somewhere. Eventually, in some turn of events that I don't entirely recall, I had ended up without a place to live within this kind of span of time. And just following, I suppose, just following my wrapping up, the longevity of this sex work for me is what I'm trying to say. It lasted just over a year. I got to the place where I was worn down, that I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. And I started telling men no. I started putting boundaries, and it started to get dangerous. And I started to worry that one day, someone was going to take my no really the wrong way. And so I walked out one day, just as I have with my Ziller's job. I was like, hey, we're not about this shits. And that was that. And in this, I don't know, dumpster fire of what was happening in my life at the time, I ended up not having a place to live, being attacked by my father, being taken in secretly by my grandmother, who lived next door. And anytime that my father would drive up the lane, like literally you share the same property, that I would have to go hide. I remember one evening just like panicking and being like, holy shit, my father's coming home. And we thought that he was going to come into the house, and I had to go hide behind these big trees behind their farmhouse. You know, that's that chapter. That's the sex work chapter. Eventually, my grandmother did. Eventually, actually, very quickly. Eventually, I make it sound like, oh, it's ongoing. No. It was rather quickly that I found a bachelor apartment back downtown, and got myself situated with the help of my grandmother, with finances from my grandmother. And she helped me out, helped a girl get back on her feet, and I didn't have to stay hiding from my father. But I did still continue to have these big gaps in my life. The lack of support, the lack of family, the lack of feeling loved, looking for validation really in all the wrong places, trying to escape my reality as frequently as possible with all of the wrong people, doing things that long term have very real consequences. Like even today, I sit here as somebody who started off in younger life very liberated, I feel, sexually, very open. And it makes me sad for myself to say that long term I have felt how closed off I've become, how wary of physical intimacy I am and how that has affected my actual relationships that I've tried to have with my partners. There is some big blockages there that I had never accounted for before, in my early 20s when I'm, telling myself like this is what female empowerment is, and this is you freeing yourself. And I sit here now at 37 and I don't feel free. I feel burdened by the things that I still have to actively work to heal and let go of. But I want to say also to the Julie then that I see you. Like, I see you. And I know how you've struggled. And I know that you had no idea why you were making the choices that you were making, or the long-term repercussions that those choices would hold. But I forgive you for all of those things. I understand why you had to go through these things. And I'm so proud that you came out the other side. Yeah. It's much easier for me to sit here and talk about the choices that I've made for myself when it is not a question of feeling like a victim. I feel, honestly, readily able to take accountability for all of my actions as an adult. So this has been a number 3 installment of my life story, and doesn't end there. It's not going to end in like episode 537, but there's quite a ways to go. I am now leaving you at a point where I'm maybe 23-ish, something like that. And there's more to that story, but you're going to catch it in a video number 4. So with that, I bid you a great day, and thank you for tuning in and being here for me. It is much appreciated. With love. Adios.